अभी आपके दूध पीने वाले थे।
Kanuja, is that you? Kanuja, is that you? Seeing you after a long time.
Yeah, this is Sukwant. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Yes, hi Sukhant. Sorry, I didn't.
I can stay here. Is that the reason you didn't change?
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, Abhay. This is Arun here.
Kanuja.
Hi, Arun.
And then you've been here.
Yes, I did this with Bal.
Oh.
Hello everyone, this is Krishna 2009.
Hi Pradeep, you want to start now or you want to wait for some time? We got 50 people on the meeting now.
Okay, Professor Karandikar is there. Good evening, Dr. Abhay.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, how are you? Hi.
Good.
So request everyone to mute unless you're speaking.
I think at the moment we have 12 people active here.
Vox meet Sandeep है क्या?
Yes.
सारे issues तुम्हारे resolve नहीं हुए हैं अभी.
अच्छा, आप बता देना, हम वो भी रिजॉल्व कर देंगे.
Can we start now? We got 54 people on the ground now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay. If you are expecting someone, then
Pradeep, 57 on the ground now.
We can maybe wait for it to hit 50 and then.
Yeah, we can wait 2 minutes, no problem.
From my batch, I can see Anurag, I can see Sukhant, Nishit. Nishit, I can't see. Nishit, are you joined?
No, I don't see him yet.
The Nishit is there.
Acha.
Okay. Oh yeah, he's here. Mute still.
Okay. Some of you I know, so hi to all of you.
As of now, we have 14 people, I think. 15.
We're at 58 right now. It went to 60 and then I think it came back to 58. I guess we could start now.
Yeah, Pradeep, this is Jayant here, so we can start now. I think it's sufficient number.
Yeah, Akash, you can put the slide. Is the slide visible to all?
UNI live site. Yeah, we can see that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah.
एक बग फाइल कर देते हैं.
Something went wrong somewhere.
Hey, Sandeep, what happened to all these infinite mirrors?
Reflections.
Reflections.
Hello, we are back.
Hello, how are we doing?
The slides have come up again.
I only have original slide. UNI live.
Yeah, that is visible.
What are we waiting for? Who are we waiting for? Any?
No, I think we'll start.
A few people are trying to talk.
Right.
This is
I
Alan.
think some people are trying to enter.
Yeah. Can you let them?
So Sandeep, can we start?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I just wanted to help with the slide, and then we start.
So the slide is there. You can start.
Yeah, Pradeep, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I'm not able to see the slides, so I was just waiting. That's why.
Slides are there. I mean,
We can all see it, so you just go ahead.
Just click on the icon, relevant icon.
Yeah, you just click on the icon that shows the slide and everything.
Hi, Pradeep. This is Alin. Rahul Singhvi is trying to join. Does somebody need
I
to let
think
him in, or?
I noticed a lot of people are getting rejected. I wonder why.
Yeah, he's a couple of. He's also been.
Shalab
Hey,
also.
Alan, this Rahul. I've just joined.
Okay, so Rahul, are you on?
I'm on.
Pradeep, if you can, you just start if you can, because otherwise it might get
Yeah.
just getting delayed here. Huh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huh.
So welcome to you and I, you and the Institute. And thank you for joining us as the alum participants. I also thank all the speakers who have agreed and consented to be with us and share the thoughts. So in the last many years, we have been connecting in different methods. And the last 4 years, we might have organized face-to-face more than 100 odd events. But whenever we organize that, one of the question always remains, कि मेरा batch वाला कौन आ रहा है? And that is always there because the bonding that we have developed through the batches is definitely much more. And therefore, in the new situation that has come up, we thought, why not look at reaching out along with the batches, and then also along with it form a method or a purpose in which we can connect. So in this online format, we involved the various batch coordinators and then said, can we work together to get all the batches and work on a theme? And the theme this time is around SMRT, School of Medical Research and Technology for our institute. So model around this thought of you and I was to have the sessions informal and the sessions to be interactive. And then we dwell on a specific topic, and we hope that this conversation would lead us that we come to some real outcomes. So given this background, I will just run through the agenda which we have shared with you all. So in the beginning, we have Professor Karandikar sharing his thoughts around the Medical Research Institute and how what we are thinking, what led to it, what are the statuses. That would be the first part of the agenda. The subsequent to that, we have members from the batches who then are able to present their perspective, and we have roughly 2 to 3 minutes for each person, because we have a fair number of people who have volunteered and would like to share their thoughts. And we realized that we may have almost 100 relevant people in this 5 batches who could share their part of the journey. And then we have these batch coordinators who are have assisted, and we have Ajit from 86 batch, Alin from 87, we have Nishit from 88, Vivek from 89, and Rajiv from 90. And these people have come together to make sure that the event is fully loaded and we have the relevant people with us tonight. We have a multiple set of speakers today, and there is this order that we have defined in our schedule. So in each case, we have put certain themes that they should be able to cover, because within the medical domain, we have a very large number of themes, and all our experienced guys and also what we have to look at as an institute, we should be able to aggregate or congregate around those themes. So some of the themes are around the medical devices, the pharma, the biotech, and of course the healthcare as we know it. So these are the themes then, and we would request the people to keep within 2 to 3 minute time limit, and one of the topic they could choose in which they could dwell and much more. So with this, I would now invite Professor Karandikar to share his thoughts. And of course, he started his journey within IIT Kanpur, and we are the contemporaries. So most of them, of us, would have met him in our role as students. And then he was in IIT Bombay for a long time, and then he came back. So I'd like to share his thoughts of what was coming back like in his new avatar that he has come, and then what he has up his sleeves in the last 2-3 years, and also take us to the journey of this SMRT. So thank you, Professor, for joining us, and I would like you to share your thoughts with all of us.
Thank you. Thank you, Pradeep. So first of all, I think a very warm welcome to all of you. Many of you I know personally for a long time. But indeed, I think it is a pleasure to meet all the IIT Kanpur alumni. As I think Pradeep mentioned that the focus of this meet, I just want to restrict it to the School of Medical Research and Technology project that we have embarked upon. In the last 2.5 years, we have made tremendous progress. We have taken up several initiatives. For example, recently we have established two new departments, Department of Sustainable Energy Engineering and Department of Cognitive Sciences. But I don't want to dwell into this. I'll straight away go into the School of Medical Research and Technology. So I thought, let me share my slide so that it is more structured. All right. So can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Yeah, we can.
Yes. Okay. So I think I just wanted to tell you that IIT Kanpur has a very strong ecosystem for biomedical research and medtech innovations. Many of you may be aware, but some of you may not know. And let me just elaborate some of the milestones. We had the Department of Biological Sciences and Bioengineering in IIT Kanpur, which was established in 2001. And this really led to the beginning of our journey in the area of healthcare. We have an undergraduate program which is run by the Department of Biological Sciences and Bioengineering, where students are admitted through the JEE. But also, we teach life science course across all branches of science and engineering in the first year, just like physics 101, Chem 101. So we also have a life sciences course. Moving forwards, I would say that some of the important centers that are associated is a Center for Nanosciences, then National Center for Flexible Electronics. We also set up the bio incubator under our startup innovation and incubation systems, which was being funded by the BIRAC. Then recently we have also set up with the King George Medical University a clinical immersion partnership program, which permitted our students to work with the doctors of KGMU and come up with solutions to address some of the challenges which the doctors were facing. IIT Kanpur has also set up an experimental animal facility to do the trials on the animals, and this is again one of its kind facility in the IIT systems. We are also setting up a center for fabrication and testing of medical devices. This is again one of its kind center. In fact, we do not have any center in the country for the fabrication and testing of medical devices. Last year, we also received the funding from the Mehta Family Foundation to set up the Mehta Family Center for Engineering and Medicine. In fact, a full-fledged infrastructure, including a building, is coming up here. And recently, I think...
This is Jayant. I think the slide is not still. I don't know whether I'm have you showing the slide. You're changing the slides, or because it's still the first slide I'm looking at. So I think you're talking the second slide. So that is not being seen by.
You can close the chat. People facing problem can close the chat. They'll be able to see the full screen.
Okay.
No, the slide that is being presented is still the cover slide. At least
Just need to move the slides. Yeah. Next one.
What, Sandeep?
Yeah. So the slide is not moving. That's the.
Yeah.
But what do I do?
Just click on slide number
Just
2.
click on the slide number 2 or 3 or 4.
Click on slide 2.
No. I have clicked that.
Maybe go to the slideshow.
Yeah.
Maybe try the slideshow.
Maybe reshare again. I think that would sometimes it freezes.
Okay, let me
just close and reshare again.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just do that. So is it visible now?
Yeah, no, it's there.
Yes.
One is
yes.
So can we go to the next now? Is it going? I mean, is the slide
No,
moving?
we are still on slide 2.
No, we're still on slide 2.
No, we are still on slide 2.
So I think every time you have to close and share a new slide. Okay.
Oh, that would be
painful, but that seems to be the only way.
So you cannot be in the presentation mode and just share from the PPT itself.
Okay.
I think Abhay is on the presentation mode.
So share the desktop.
Yeah, but there is no voice.
Please try changing the slide now.
So just for reference, I can see the slide. He's now on slide number 2. I can hear him also. So for
but we cannot hear him. At least I can't hear him.
But we need to go to slide 3 and we are still stuck on 2.
Once in a while it comes randomly, but I can't hear him otherwise.
Okay, so I think let me not use the slide and let me just talk without
Please
slides.
do the slides once more. It will come.
We have the slides, Abhay. You just have to reference the slide number and we should be good. So just go ahead and with your presentation. Just talk it through. We should be good.
Where can we get access to the slides? Is there a Google Drive URL or something we can go to?
But I think we can see movement now, I guess.
We can see the movement now, sir. So please don't go in the presentation mode. Please try changing the slides here.
Okay. So so is this visible now?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, so I will not go into the presentation mode. I'll just keep it here. So, so I think recently we have set up a ICMR Center of Excellence in Medical Research, and also the Department of Biotechnology has set up a school for healthcare innovations and entrepreneurship. Just very briefly, I want to say that the biological sciences and bioengineering has been rated as one of the top departments in the country. And we have a very world-class faculty in the departments who are also not only involved in basic research, but also, some technology development as well. As I've already mentioned that we have a very strong innovation and incubation systems, and in fact, during COVID time period, with IIT Kanpur incubated company Noka Robotics, along with faculty members and some alumni and industry experts, had developed a portable mechanical invasive ventilator, which is quite a success story. It has been deployed in more than 500 hospitals in critical care settings across the country. And I think this is some product that we should be actually proud of because it got developed in a very record time. Then in our incubator, we have many companies which are working in assistive technology, virtual reality in healthcare, medical devices for screening and diagnosis, medical implants, AI in telemedicine, and so on. And there are many of these companies are listed here, but there are more than 20 plus companies, which have been incubated, which are in the broad area of medtech innovation and incubation. So, so what we believe is that we have a very a strong engineering in medicine, basic research, medtech research, and incubation programs. And setting up a medical program will actually close these loop. As far as the IIT Kanpur is concerned, we believe that the lack of clinical setup on the campus is actually causing a lot of problems in terms of the fact that our research is now restricted to using only animal models. Because of the non-availability of sample and their degradation in transports, it also causes, some hindrances in research. And then, of course, there is a significant delay in immediate clinical validations, even though, we have a good partnership with King George Medical University, SGPGI, and for some projects, even with All India Institute of Medical Science. So I believe that having a medical program and a clinical setup like a super specialty hospital will address these problems. At the same time, I think we can do a paradigm shift in the medical education, in the sense that having a medical program at IIT Kanpur will also give an opportunity for medical professionals to earn minor degrees in interdisciplinary area. For example, they can do DM in cardiology with minor in data science, or MCH in oncology with minor in E or IoT, and so on. Or for example, DM in radio diagnosis with minor in image processing. And these kinds of interdisciplinary opportunities are exclusively possible only in IIT Kanpur, but they are not even possible in All India Institute of Medical Science. So I think there is a need for world-class medical university. And if you look at even the top medical institutions in the country, they are in the world ranking of upwards of 800. On the other hand, most IITs are within 250, 300 QS rankings. So we believe that it is possible to go to the top 500 universities and as far as the medical education is concerned. So our plan is to set up a School of Medical Research and Technology with a super specialty hospital in phase 1. And that will have several advanced research centers like telemedicine and robotics, AI and diagnosis, molecular regenerative medicines, orthopedics, cancer research, and so on. And in the phase 2, then, and of course, the postgraduate program will be there, like in clinical sciences like DM and MCH, and later on MD and MS also in 8 disciplines. And then going forward, maybe few years down the line, we can think of starting an undergraduate program as well, if things actually go well. So the idea is basically to have the School of Medical Research and Technology as a part of the IIT Kanpur Center. So we will have the faculty members in clinical medicine, which will be like part of the IIT Kanpur faculty. But as far as the hospital part is concerned, that will be run and managed by a separate not-for-profit company. And we have an existing landscapes. So in biosciences and bioengineering, and also in CS, electrical, material science, mechanical engineering, our National Center for Flexible Electronics, etc., offers an opportunity for the existing faculty members to collaborate with the clinical faculty. So in the phase 1, we are planning a 450-bed hospitals and several advanced research centers and postgraduate programs. And this will require an investment of about 450 crores in the beginning, close to $65 million US. And in the phase 2, of course, we go for the undergraduate programs and a teaching hospital. Currently, we are planning to set up this on the other side of the campus. So this is the main gate here, and this is the gate on the Shibli road side. So there is a proposed site for setting up this school with about 25 acres of greenfield land. We have sort of done survey for this, and this is actually, those of you who have seen some of the new hostels, then this is behind Hostel 10, Hall 10, which is a new hall. This, it is planned to set up phase 1, phase 2 also on this. In fact, we have close to about 70 acres of land here, but currently, of course, we have allotted 25 acres of plot here. So we have set up a very strong advisory board. Dr. Devi Shetty of Narayan Hridayalaya is closely advising us. We have one of our distinguished alumnus, Mr. Arun Seth, who is also on the call, who is on the board of Narayan Hridayalaya. He has been actually working with our team and guiding us in a significant fashion. Then on our advisory board, we also have Dr. Maman Chandy of Tata Memorial Cancer Hospital. Currently, I think we have sort of prepared the detailed project report, including the feasibility and the financials for the proposed School of Medical Research and setting up the super specialty hospital. So in the IIT system, I just want to tell you that IIT Kharagpur has begun with setting up a School of Medical Research and Technology. In fact, they have begun with an undergraduate program. In fact, IIT Kharagpur is going to start the MBBS program from this academic year, July 2021. They have actually have announced also this program, but we are decided to do exactly opposite. We are not going to start an undergraduate MBBS degree program. We are actually going to start a super specialty and super specialization and a research program, and then decide about the undergraduate programs only in the phase 2 down several years, maybe 5 to 7 years down the line. So this is the current plan, and of course I will be happy to interact. So I thought I just want to be brief, but I will be happy to interact and answer the questions.
Yeah, so Professor Karandikar, one of the questions which people have been asking is, what is the current readiness for us? Are there learnings, resources, capabilities that we are looking at? So what is your, understanding about it, and what are your thoughts about them?
Okay, so as I said, we were earlier interacting with Tata Trust, and Tata Trust had engaged a consulting company which actually consults in the medical research and hospitals. They prepared the complete detailed project report, including financials, and in fact, this was completely funded by the Tata Trust, their consulting fees. So finally, we got this DPR and financials approved by the IIT Kanpur Board of Governors. So we have approved that. We are in the process of setting up a not-for-profit company under the Companies Act, Section 8 of the Companies Act, which will be called as Foundation of Medical Research and Technology. And this company will be actually running the hospital part of the School of Medical Research and Technology. So all the paramedics, paraclinical and the operation staff will be the part of this not-for-profit company, while the faculty members will be the part of the IIT Kanpur faculty. So we are in the process of setting up these not-for-profit company. We have constituted a very strong advisory board, which is advising us. As I already mentioned, Dr. Devi Shetty of Narayan Hridayalaya is closely working with us. We have Mr. Arun Seth, who is working. On the advisory board, Dr. Maman Chandy and Mrs. Sudha Murthy also has agreed to be on the advisory board. Then we are also working with several international doctors as well from Baylor College and so on, who are ready to work. So right now, I think we are working to prepare the two parts. One is that we are looking for raising the funding for our phase 1 of 450 crores from both the government as well as from the private donors. This will be set up in the public-private partnership. And the second is we are also at the same time working out the details of the preparing the detailed estimates of the building and the infrastructures that would be required to set up the school. So we are at this stage right now.
Sounds good. One other thing that we noticed, in the last few years, we have been opening number of Section 8 companies. And I think that also calls for different ways we have to handle in India. Now, my question, of course, is while Institute is doing this, how do you see is we are positioning it? Because the question comes back, how do we become number one? So how does this take us to a position where we again go back to a global eminence and a wanted for Institute?
So I think what I feel is that IIT Kanpur in the last 10 years or so has done remarkably well in general, I think in medtech innovations and the basic research in the biosciences and bioengineering. And as you know that the future advances in the healthcare are happening at the intersection of engineering and medicine. I mean, it is now well known that the future advances in medicine are heavily technology driven. But if you look at the Indian scenario, that most of the medical education and research is actually not doing any sort of engineering and technology interactions. And I believe, and in fact, many of our colleagues from the institute also believe that by entering into this domain, we will be able to make a great difference. We will be able to make a both national and international impact. And I think something what IIT Kanpur did, like the pioneer, IIT Kanpur was pioneer in starting the computer science education programs. I think we can take a lead by doing something like giving a DM in cardiology with minor in artificial intelligence, or DM in radio diagnosis with minor in AI and image processing. This is something, I believe we can really do a significant difference to the field of both medical education as well as the engineering educations. And I think this way we can establish a very distinct and different marks than what the other institutions are.
Yeah, this gives a very interesting perspective because none of such programs actually exist in India. Now, of course, we have a big Q&A much later from all the for you.
I just wanted to, Pradeep, I just wanted to mention here that we are actually, we were introduced to there's a National Board of Examinations in the country, which actually also, gives this DNB degrees and all. And they are actually quite excited to work with IIT Kanpur right from the conceptual stage.
Excellent. And actually, some work has already been happening when we are working with different hospitals and medical colleges in the past. So there is some definitely learning, which is what you have. So one of the question which I have now is, what do you really expect from the alums? Now, as we reached out to these 5 batches, what I realized, we have wealth of knowledge, talent, expertise, which is available. And even in this, just these, 5 batches. And of course, we still to talk about the rest of the other 55. So what, in your perspective, is then, would you like to capitalize, and how would you like to capitalize on the resource knowledge which is available with us?
So, so I think we are looking for, the help in terms of advising, guiding, mentoring, and of course, helping with all the resources that alumni can do, either through their individual contributions or from the contributions from the companies or institutions that they are working with. I just wanted to tell you that in the last 2-3 years, we are very deeply engaged with the alumni. You talked about few Section 8 companies. So, for example, our incubator has now been consolidated as a Section 8 company, and on the board we have Saurabh Srivastav and Shrikant Shastri, who are our alumni. Then we have also got a research park, which is also a Section 8 company, where we have Lalit Jalan on the board. Recently, we have set up for the development foundations, IIT Kanpur development foundations, for raising the funding for this. On the board, we have Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy, Rajiv Ranjan, who is the president of IIT Kanpur foundations in the US, and Rajiv Sarup, who is also here. They are on the board. So actually, on various Section 8 companies that we have set up, we have about 10 to 12 very distinguished alumni on the board. And on the Medical School of Medical Research and Technology, as I said, Arun said he's already working on it. So we have about 12 to 14 very top alumni on the board, which have very kindly agreed to work with us. So we are looking for help in that directions. And of course, we are also looking for raising the resources in whatever forms that, that can be contributed to.
Sounds good. So as we discussed, we will look at coming back to you once again. But meanwhile, I would look at the number of alum speakers that we have. And before we run through the list, if Ajay is there, I would like him just to set a context on how we could really focus on some of these areas, which are sub areas within the medical field. And then we will start with our first speaker, Neeraj Vashisht, after Ajay has his thoughts. Ajay, you're there?
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, hey, thanks. Great to be a part of this. I think it's great to see some of the folks, some of them after a decade or two. Just before this call, we had a quick discussion, Pradeep and Alind and myself, and we were asking questions about how best to organize the content, because we've got a lot of folks who have got depth in multiple areas. And fundamentally, how to make it helpful, as Dr. Karandikar said, for the IITK team, as they think about this nascent effort of the School of Medical Research and Technology. And, with the 12 high-performing executives, such as the folks who are going to talk, it's easy to get sidetracked. So what we said was, let's take a crack at organizing this in different healthcare spaces. So when each of you present in the 2 to 3 minutes, would like to ask you to, ask the question around the intersection of your experience in any of these segments with the knowledge of IIT, and I think the more relevant knowledge that Dr. Karandikar just mentioned, and maybe provide a perspective on how could IITK play in this space. And of course, you'll talk about the risks and opportunities and some views on a potential game plan for IIT Kanpur. So the 6-7 areas, just to think about, so to set the context. One is providers, so nuances of the healthcare delivery in the hospital as well as outside the hospital in India, and in particular in India, the rural versus urban kind of way. The second, there's a little bit of noise on the phone. If you can mute if you're not talking. The second is medtech devices. This is clearly a broad space that spans different classes of devices with different levels of risks, and of course, fundamental technologies within those. Healthcare IT is the third one. Given IIT's strong position in computer science, this might be a particularly fertile area. And I mean, some of the AI implications are outside of healthcare IT, but I think that's the third space. The fourth broadly is pharma and biopharma. We're thinking of drug discovery, both small molecule as well as large molecule biologics, clinical trials being a big part of it. I think statistics that goes into it, some capabilities IIT might have. And then given the moment right now, vaccines would be a part of that. The fifth one is tools and diagnostics, testing, the lateral test, point of care test, in-hospital test. In broad, talk about gene sequencing and proteomics. The sixth segment is bioprocess, scaling up on monoclonals and so on and so forth. And then the seventh one, which might or might not be relevant in India, is the broad space of payers, managing payment models, integrity management, outsourcing, and then population health, which is an important part of that. So those are the kind of 7 segments. And then once again, I think, what I would say is try to answer the fundamental question, which is, knowing what you know about your segment. And I think you guys are very deep in this, and what you know about IIT Kanpur. How would you see a play for IIT Kanpur? I think if we do that, maybe there is a little bit of structure as we go through this. So let me hand it back to you, Pradeep. Pradeep, you still there?
Yourself.
Sure. So thanks, Ajay. I would request Neeraj to share his views, and we will definitely compile these few areas that you have mentioned. Neeraj?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Neeraj Vashisht. I'm a graduate of IIT Kanpur Chemical Engineering batch of 1986. Just a little bit about myself, and then I'd be happy to talk a little bit about Abhay's presentation and focus our discussions based on what Ajay just mentioned. So I have 25 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry. I have experience in trying to getting drugs approved in the United States and the rest of the world. I have a total of 7 commercial products in the US market, which I have led, exceeding $3 billion in total revenue for the companies I worked for. I used to be the chief technology officer at a publicly traded company called BioDelivery Sciences, where we got 3 drugs approved. All of them were in neurology space. So my expertise and knowledge base is on pharmaceutical development from a chemical engineer's perspective, and neurosciences and oncology from a medicine perspective. So I'm fundamentally with a person with a background in pharmaceutical development and drug development. So a little bit about that. And then talking about Abhay, your presentation, I think it's a very ambitious plan. I think I want to say that based on my experiences, based on the amount that you said you need to get phase 1 going, and the extensive details that you have laid out in reference to all the different aspects of a clinical based postgraduate program is a very, very ambitious plan. I perhaps thought maybe having a slightly narrowed focus may be prudent. Clearly, I think your vision of getting undergraduate education with having minors is a very, very good idea. I do believe that one of the things that I feel is missing, if you may, is the fact that there is no bridge program. For example, a bridge program may mean biopharmaceutics, medicinal chemistry. I'm sure there are embedded in the chemistry programs and the biology programs, regulatory science programs. Health policy was mentioned, from population statistics, discovery. All of these things are important in part of drug discovery and drug development. But perhaps before you dive into a postdoc program on oncology, those bridge programs have to be created from an academic standpoint, so that people that are coming up this learning curve as undergraduates may potentially learn the nuances of how engineering aspects match up with the medicine aspects, because we are very few individuals in the United States that have an engineering background and are pursuing the area of medicine. So those came very clearly to me to say that if you guys in India could build a bridge program for undergraduates that may have a feel for areas of medicine, whether it's oncology, neurosciences, the details in drug discovery and receptor activities, and then learning some of that with respect to engineering, I think it'll go a long way. And I think it'll allow you to create a good amount of resources as undergraduate resources that may want to pursue areas of medicine earlier than later. So I'm going to stop right here. I took more than my 2 minutes, but I wanted that was my first initial thought coming out from our discussion earlier.
Yeah, excellent inputs, Neeraj. I would now request Pramat Sinha, who has been, starting number of institutes and making them a success. Professor Sinha, we will look forward to your views. Are you there? You're able to join?
Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity, and Abhay knows my views well enough, but I'll try to make it quick. I personally feel like I walked into this without really knowing what I was signing up to, because this is a subject that I don't know much about. It feels like a quiz and a tutorial at IITK. But I think what I'll do is focus on the institution building part and very quickly say congratulations. This sounds very exciting and well done. And it's great that we are going to do this. I think the challenge that I have found, and sorry to start on a bit of a skeptical note, is that a lot of these institutions and initiatives that we start in India start with a bang, with very high aspirations, and are never really able to meet those aspirations. And to the little that I've studied it, I have a few points to just mention as a way of caution. And I think you're already conscious of some of these, which is why I'll hit those points. This is a little bit like setting up another IITK within IITK. So you're really setting up an institution within an institution. And like all institution building efforts, I think the initial DNA and the gene pool that this will have will really set the tone for what it will become over time. Institutions are a little bit like organisms. And I think a lot of what we are today at IITK is because of what Professor Kelkar and MIT did in the early days. And I think we have to think really about what is the DNA that you put into this institution. So a quick few points on the DNA. I think setting global benchmarks from day one and trying uncompromisingly to not dilute them over time, because that's inevitably what happens. You know, the next director and the next director come and they kind of start to dilute things. So how do you set things in place that really aim high from day one? I think the two things that go into that are the governance and the leadership. I think the advisory board that you've got, some of the names you mentioned, and Arun is here. I have great regard for the people you have. So I think you started off really well. I think it's good. It's important that people listen to that advisory board and that you find a great director for the SMRT in the first instance. And I think that's going to be really critical in making this successful. I think the role of partnerships are going to be very important. And you're already talking about some of those, but perhaps, and again, not to be apologetic about this, but I know that you have a extension campus in Delhi, and trying to leverage that to build some partnerships in the city of Delhi as well as international physical partnerships would be quite relevant. So maybe think about that as a extension campus, as a location. And finally, on the fundraising bit, I think this is an area where you could actually raise a lot of funds for, including from some international agency like the Gate Foundation and so on. At Ashoka, we've been very successful in doing that, as well as looking at a model of fundraising that, at least for ISB and Ashoka, has been very successful for us, where we've been able to raise a lot of money from a large number of donors rather than from a single donor. So those are some of my initial thoughts, and I hope that will be helpful. But sorry, I don't know much about the subject itself, so I stayed away from that. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
I think, thank you, Pramath. I think those were all very good.
Yeah, I think they were very relevant, and I think your expertise in building institution, I think we will leverage. And thank you. We have the next speaker is my swimming captain when I joined IIT, Naresh. Naresh is CEO and founder Nashoro. Naresh Sharma, your thoughts.
I think you have to unmute.
Okay, I just want to share the screen and leave you with a little bit of food for thought. So just to give you a very short background, what I'm going to talk about is related to manufacturing. Everybody talks very loosely about microns and nanometers. We actually work with microns. So I do know how tough it is to get repeatable microns out of anything. So that's what I want to talk about. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically this what you're actually doing is awesome. It is an awesome it's an awesome opportunity for IIT to again shine. But what I see that when you talk about biotechnology, I see a very highly interlinked, interdisciplinary landscape, which includes everything of this. I'm not going to go into great detail of this, and I'll talk about it later. And these are some of the kind of things that I see happening in the industry today. And some of these manufacturers also ask us to make components for them. We actually, our main business is aerospace, making aircraft, but we also make, we do production for aerospace, defense, and medical industry. So some other things that that we have over here in Europe are these plasmapheresis machines, just to give you an idea of what kind of apparatus is used, and computer tomography machines. And now recently, the gamma knife. The gamma knife is the state of the art for brain surgery, oncological brain surgery, which is what I expect that IIT would be able to do. And now I come to what my views are about Abhay's thing. You would, in order to, you just mentioned that you would go into creating nanoscience technology. You would need a foundry for that, and that's a foundry which is an electrical, used for making microprocessors and chips. So you would need to have technology and process technology, and also facilities to prototype MEMS-based systems. So one of the things that you mentioned is that you need to go and today there is a problem because you do animal testing at MEMS levels. This technology has been developed abroad, which allows you to create organs at MEMS scale and do testing on those small bits. So and these are real physical components. So those kind of technology should be focused on from the technology point of view. I'm not an expert of biotechnology, but only of manufacturing and of engineering, basically. So one of the other things is that you're talking about drug discovery and gene sequencing. That's awesome, but how does it correlate to the current domain expertise that IIT Kanpur already has? Can't you take this challenge in small bites and take challenge where there is an immense overlap of the current domain expertise of IIT and bring it to medicine? That is what I'd like to leave the thought as.
Thanks, Naresh.
Yeah, I just wanted to make Pradeep, I just want to make a quick remark to what Naresh has said. Sure. Yes, indeed. I think, as I mentioned, that our bio incubator and the medtech devices, yes, they are collaborating with electrical engineering, computer science, and material science departments, what you mentioned and showed. And in fact, the ventilator which was developed by the Noka Robotics, in fact, Noka Robotics is actually not a medtech device company. It was actually a robotics company, as the name suggests. And but as you rightly mentioned, that some of the components which were used, in the electronics for the controls, etc., was very similar to what is required for the precision control in an invasive ventilator for critical care, and that could what be achieved with.
So we had advised Noka Robotics. I know.
Yes.
What I would say is that this is a really awesome opportunity for you to excel in something, just like you have excelled in engineering till now, and everybody in the world knows this name IIT. Whenever somebody from IIT is standing in front of anybody, they tremble. They will not question your decision. That is what should happen. Somebody's got his thing on. So what I was saying is that this overlap of the current mechatronics capabilities that IIT Kanpur has, and you go to so many hospitals, you don't see anything in India of the quality and the class that you have in your. I'm sorry that somebody has got his this mic on. Anyhow, I've given my views, and I would I understand you, Abhay, where you're going, and we will support you in whichever way we can.
Thank you.
Thanks, Naresh.
Yeah, Pradeep, go ahead.
I think I got muted. So now there is some disturbance from.
Pradeep, I think you have a problem from your end. I think.
Yeah. Pradeep, I think, has his speaker and his pickup.
So I think you have two devices, I think, which have plugged in.
No, it's not there. Anyway, so at the moment, let me welcome Gautam Khanna, who is man of the field on the medical side and the CEO of Hinduja Hospital, to share his views.
Thank you, Pradeep. And firstly, let me say, Professor Karandikar, when you mentioned this idea, I think 2.5 years ago, I was not very sure where you're going, but I mean, I think now you've come a long way. So congratulations on, bringing to fruition your idea. So a little bit of my background: I graduated in '88 in mechanical engineering. So out of now almost 31 years, I have spent. I think other people need to switch off the mic, otherwise there's too much feedback. I've spent 22 years in the medical device space and class 1 to class 3 medical devices, where I've set up factories in India and set up R&D and local product development labs in India and scaled up and so on and on in consumables area too. And for the last 7 years, I've been running Hinduja hospitals, and we have 2 hospitals in Bombay and 1 in Bangalore. And I'm also associated with a couple of other hospitals and other healthcare institutions in the board capacity. So that's a quick background about me. So some comments on the presentation, Dr. Karandikar, what you made. And if I can first say that, I completely agree with you on that the future is on the intersection of engineering and medicine, having seen from the hospital side and what technologies we evaluate. So I'm completely in agreement with that. Also in agreement with the fact that there is no healthcare or hospital in that area where IIT is, and plus the population around. So there is a large catchment area which is going to give you patients, which is fine. Now, the thing which I wanted to just tell you based on, so we have a very large research department in our hospitals, and we're very well known internationally. And I mean, our guys have been featured on the Time magazines, and we do a lot of international projects. So we've had some research, and we have a tie-up with NIH also. So I wanted to share some things with you that for to be successful in research and clinical trials and development of anything, firstly we need a very good, successful, large hospital which has reputable doctors and a very good teaching program. And I saw that you have mentioned that you're going to start with PG first and UG later, which I am in agreement. And not, I think some of my predecessors said that should be the other way around, but in my view, based on what I have seen, I think PG is a better option and not UG, because PG people also do research along with their training of DNB, and Dr. Karandikar talked about NBE and MD level thing. Now that is one. The other thing is research also succeeds when you have a lot of experience of doing international projects and clinical trials, and it happens and it depends on the ability of the clinician. And of course, the engineering and the technical expertise from the IIT will be very useful, but the clinician's role is very, very crucial. So the quick thought I have is just nothing to do with IIT, but just the location of Kanpur, whether it will be able to attract good clinicians to live and work there who are of repute and who will leave the large research places of metros and come and work there. So that is something to be thought about. And so it's not an easy thing to do, not an impossible thing, but I think it is a tough task, and somebody has to really focus on it because it is not going to happen on its own. The other thing is about technology, and in my last many years in running the hospital, and I see many technologies come for evaluation, and some of them are brilliant technologies, but many of them don't get commercialized, they don't get scaled up, and one of the reasons for that is probably the nature of the medical community is that they are very conservative and less and they are risk averse. So I think that has to be factored in. And when I say that has to be factored in, the reason I say that is that the plan which has been laid out, it covers many areas and it's brilliant areas. And for example, the ideas of the advanced engineering with biosciences, computer science with artificial intelligence, brilliant ideas. I think that is perfect. The only thing is, I think there are too many initiatives. The success of this program will be if you narrow down the initiatives a little bit, focus on a few things. For example, in your area, and I've seen the hospital part where you mentioned you will do neuro, onco, ortho, and I think 7 or 8 areas. So maybe need to focus on a few and then develop in that, because it's impossible to get best clinicians of the country for all the areas and develop center of excellence and all. It will be a big challenge. The other thing is areas like gene sequencing, artificial intelligence. We can see from the clinical world, I can see there are advances and doctors are also keen on working on it. So that might work. The regulations in this area are very, very strict, Dr. Karandikar. So despite people saying that we are interested, so regulations, what they do is they just delay the timing of the commercialization, the timing of scale up. So that's one. And the last thing which I wanted to just leave you with, I saw your budget. I think the budget which has been given to you, and I know the consulting company very well. I mean, he's a good friend of mine. He mentioned that to me. I think that is a good enough budget to just set up a hospital, but to set up a large research facility and to make it center of excellence, to just take it to the next level, will need much more funding. And I think you may need to look at a little bit more cushion in that. Otherwise, this will not work. And from what I saw, I think I was the documents which were shared just now, I think the timeline, the phase wise needs a little more granularity, and I'm sure your team is doing that. But that's just some of my thoughts. But overall, if this succeeds, this is going to be like, in MIT, I'm sure you know the example of Media Labs, and I've visited Media Labs and with MIT, and I see the great synergy between Media Labs and the medical school and the engineering part of it. So it really works, but it needs a long time to build it to that level. So that's all my views are. Thank you.
I just want to just quickly comment on this. So first of all, I think, I do appreciate about the funding part. And here I think we are factoring into account the fact that as far as the research part is concerned, we are getting funding from other sources also. In fact, in the last 2-3 years, Department of Biological Sciences and Bioengineering has got about close to 50 to 60 crores funding in the last 1 year for doing the research in the area of general health sciences. And I must say that as far as the clinicians and the doctors are concerned, let me just tell you that several have approached that they would like to become a faculty member along with the hospitals. And of course, while they will be the faculty in IIT Kanpur, they will be allowed to consult it in the hospital and therefore earn as much as they could earn in a corporate setting. So there is this brand IITK, which of course we would like to exploit. And given the fact that there is a big opportunity for the clinical business as well, it is difficult, but it is possible to attract, a very good clinical doctors to become a faculty in IIT Kanpur. In fact, many are actually more than willing to come and work here. I mean, we are in touch with many of them. So I think this is, I'm aware of that. And in the phase 1, we will need about 30 to 40. And let me just tell you that 2 or 3 of them are willing to come even from the US also to initially for 2-3 years. So we are in touch, and we will use brand IITK to the fullest extent to exploit this and get those people join here as the faculty. So I think that is what, and the third part is that I just want to mention here that although I did not only briefly alluded to in my presentation, but I just want to mention here that our Department of Biological Sciences and Bioengineering is one of the top rated departments in the country and has been doing a lot of international collaborations with many universities in the area of biological sciences. I mean, I'm not saying in the clinical medicine, but and in the country has been working with very closely with KGMU and SGPGI because they are nearby, but also with ICMR and All India Institute of Medical Science. And in fact, some of my colleagues, Professor Amitabh Bandyopadhyay, Professor Ganesh, they are also on the call. But I think your point is well taken, and I know fully well that on the budget part, I think yes, 450 crores is in the phase. Sort of you call it a phase 0. But we have to start somewhere. I mean, you just cannot start with 1,500 crores budget and not get there. But yes, it will be done in a phased manner, and we are fully aware that where and how it needs to go in a phased fashion. Yeah.
Professor,
yeah, I think in some of the cases we may have follow-up discussions.
Yeah,
because we won't be able to address full thing. And we have many more speakers to come. I would like to invite the next speaker, Sanjay Sharma, who is my batchmate, and he's been heading the open learning in MIT, and I would like him to share his experience and thoughts on our initiative here.
Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to see this, and very inspiring to see IIT take on such a huge effort. And what gets me excited about it particularly is the ambition of the effort. And the last thing I want to do is in any way criticize that ambition. I think this is really incredible. I have just 2 or 3 comments. One is that MIT is actually ranked very highly in this, but we actually don't have a hospital. And what we do is we work with Harvard Medical School and use their hospitals. So we're very lucky because we don't have the burden of running a hospital and check-ins and bed counts and insurance and all that stuff that happens in the United States. Some of which, of course, is relevant in the US. But we get the benefit of, on the other hand, doing experiments, working with the Harvard Medical School. Now, of course, that luxury doesn't exist at IIT Kanpur, so it's great to see IIT take on this grand challenge. But I think one has to be careful that the tail doesn't wag the dog, because what will happen very quickly is that the hospital and the running of the hospital becomes such a big deal that the rest of the university may sort of lose some of its other stuff. That's one piece of it. The other thing is, obviously, others have said that a hospital is a huge undertaking, and to the extent that it is the focus, it'll help. So, for example, if you go into oncology, then you need more biochemistry. People who work on things like monoclonal antibodies, things like that. If you go into more ortho, then there's more, mechanical input, things like that. So I just suggest, first of all, that rather than, at least in the beginning, going for the whole ambition to sharpen the focus a little bit and sort of peel the onion, go piece by piece. So that's just one quick thought. The second broad thought here is that I think that we should think about how collectively, I'm talking about to IIT Kanpur alums and to my alma mater here, collectively about being world-class and being like the best in the world in a couple of things. It'll take a long time, but if necessity is the mother of invention, clearly India is a big source of necessity. I think over the last 20, 30 years, India has become world-class in many things. So the question is, on what topic can India become world-class? And can this effort be sort of the top 5 in the world? In Singapore, I was involved with many programs. Singapore, they said, we'll go after infectious diseases. So during COVID-19, there was actually a company in Singapore that played a very key part, actually working with an MIT colleague, on monoclonal antibodies, not for cancer, but more for, obviously, for COVID, for the treating COVID. So those are my two broad comments. One is, how does one sort of narrow the bore of this rather than go with a bazooka, so that we can maybe become a bazooka eventually, but initially we're pretty focused and we don't let the tail wag the dog too much. And the other is, where can we become world-class? And obviously the two thoughts are deeply connected. But really inspiring to see IIT Kanpur take on such a big thing, Abhijit, and I think that it will change the nature of the university, and if we do it right, in a really good way. So thank you very much. And Pradeep, thank you for doing this, and Sandy, my wingmate, really proud to do this on VoxMeet.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
Thank you, Sanjay.
I think I just wanted to briefly comment on what Sanjay has very important point that he has mentioned, that the running of the hospitals. And I think that is why I mentioned that we are also cognizant of this, and we will keep running of the hospital to be completely separate from IIT Kanpur. And that is why we said that it will be a separate company. In fact, all the employees of the hospitals, including the operations staff and the clinical staff, they will not be employees of IIT Kanpur. They will be the employees of this company. So it will have a separate management, and it will take care of it separately. But the only like 30 to 40 faculty member doctors, they will be like just additional faculty members of that, and then they will be involved in the research, and at the same time they will be like a consultant doctors to this hospital. So I think I think your point is well taken in this, that we don't want to mix the running of the hospital with running of IIT Kanpur.
I just want to also say a couple of other things while I'm on the topic. One is, just on this call, we have Sukwant, who's doing some amazing work in telemedicine. We have Rajshekhar, who is doing very interesting work in a variety of fields, including remote stethoscopes, reinventing the stethoscope. Not on this call is Rajat Mittal, who's another batchmate, who's a professor of mechanical engineering and medicine at Johns Hopkins. And I would say that you have a really supportive and amazing group of people who will all root for you. You know this. I mean, it's such an incredible group you have in your audience. But I just want to bring some of those names to the fore.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Arjun is on the list. I mean, Rajat is on the list, and we'll be catching him in the follow-up meetings. Thanks, Sanjay. I would like to now invite Arjun Surya, who created a company out of IIT Kanpur and really make it big. Arjun Surya, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Yes, your thoughts.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, unfortunately, my camera
I'm not able to get the camera to work, but I think there are two aspects to this that I'd like to just talk about. First, very specifically about curative, because or what I've been doing and its connection, given what the organizers would like us to sort of start with, at least the area where we've been familiar with. And so I work in drug discovery, and we've basically big targets, drug discovery targets, which are not yet drugged. So we work on first-in-class kind of targets, and we've been reasonably successful. We've licensed out to Roche, to Takeda, to Bayer recently, and these are all ideas and molecules and assays and biology and chemistry that's been developed in-house in India. So what it has taught me is that there is a lot of potential in India, and one thing that I think many of us share in common when we were at IIT was that sense of a great deal of potential. Now, I just want to say that, so far, just if you want to focus on my industry, what I'd say is that there's a whole bunch of things missing in India, which is the sort of translational aspect of what you need to actually have companies where you can start everywhere, which is like cell lines to support biology companies, support chemistry companies. We buy building blocks out of China today. We buy cell lines out of Europe or America today. So the costs are of input materials are huge. So there's why I'm saying this is that there are very large gaps in the infrastructure that we need to actually develop more than sort of episodic companies that come out like curative once in a blue moon and give us a sense that we're doing well. But actually we have a lot to go, and that I think goes to a lot of the accomplished people who spoke just now, who spoke about in a very cautious manner about the challenges of what we're trying to do, be it from just the scope of what we're trying to do to the kind of people who will be required to champion it. So I think everybody has that kind of broad input. I won't say concern, but I guess hope that it would be something that would be in the minds of the organizers of this, that it should be a very important thing. And like a brand is a very difficult thing to build. And IIT Kanpur has a brand. Okay, and I think whatever it does it should remember that the brand is very important, and it needs to be done really well to maintain that brand. I have been interacting with BSMBA a little bit with and with the incubator also a little bit. I think that there are interesting companies in there, but one of the big broad things I'll say about the medical school is I hope it's not coming out because BSMB companies could not find medical schools to interact with, right? That was what I got from some of what I read, but that's a pretty that's not a very strong reason, I'd say, right? I mean, if you can't find doctors and hospitals to interact with, then I'll build myself a medical school is sort of is not really it's a disproportionate kind of response. The second thing that I'd say is that there is a huge strength in IIT on straight engineering, which is so well. BSMBA has done very well. It's a good program, and as companies have been incubated. My sense of the whole entrepreneur environment in IIT is, my question would be, what about the other departments? What about electrical or electronic engineering or computers? Where are the companies around these departments? And that's really what we should be learning from. That is once we understand why that deficit exists, why is it that we don't have so many companies that are coming out of IIT in the technical field? Where are they? There are tons of companies like that in Boston. There are tons of companies in San Francisco, right? Where are those companies? And I think we all agree that the people are very good. The input material is very good. I think that's what people who have been talking today have been speaking about, that the gap. The gap is that kind of the execution gap, the infrastructure gap, people gap. And I think that is very important to make this successful. And I think that's really what I'd like to say. And I wish everybody very well on this. I think it's an important thing if you can integrate medicine and this, but there are several gaps infrastructurally, and I think that's what people are pointing to. And I've been back in India for 20 years, and I've worked here for now 22 years, so I'm well aware of what are the
those
issues
are
in terms of
some good thoughts, Surya, and I think team will definitely look at them, and all know you anyway, since you are a regular active member from IIT. I would now invite Vivek Bhatt. Been long time seeing you, and good to see you here. Vivek, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see me and hear me. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
we can see you. We can see you.
Yeah. So, look, I mean, I don't know if I can add a whole lot more to what has been said, but just in the background, 90 batch mechanical engineering, and then I've been in the med device spaces for the last 25 years, and then I just recently joined Optum Technologies, which is much more on the IT side of things. So here is like 2 or 3 thoughts. Number one, just with the number of people on this call and all the different disciplines, I would say, could IIT Kanpur ecosystem produce people that could take any of those 7 or 8 areas that Ajay outlined? Can we get good at any one of those? I would say absolutely, right? I mean, the folks on this call are a testament to the fact that the education, the ecosystem, what we can create can get there. So that's absolutely true. The point, I think, it's not about could we do any one of those 7, or could we do all those 7? The question is more around the should, right? Which one should we go after? And I think there's a couple of themes that in the last 2 or 3 points that were made. It's not just whether we can create a hospital or we can do research. It's about what does the rest of the ecosystem look like? What's around us at IIT Kanpur? What's in India? What are the strengths that we have? How can we create something that it's not just about the first step of creating it, but there's a broad ecosystem behind it that is actually going to sustain it and drive it. And so that's a very important factor, isn't it? As I think back, and again, I mean, I've limited knowledge of everything that goes in India, but I would say, whether it's the pharmaceuticals or whether it's IT, right? Those are the 2 things that India is known for. So as you start to get into something like this, you say, look, that's the industry, that's the broad ecosystem that's going to be able to support it, right? So that's one factor I think we should consider. The other pieces I'm also, the 7 pieces that Ajay talked about, right? If once you decide, look, I want to do X, like one of those, what it takes to do that may be very different than when you want to do something else. In one case, you might say, look, I actually want to be able to have a hospital because I'm going to do some deep clinical research. If you're looking at IT or medical informatics, you don't need a hospital. If you're looking at doing deep research around cell culture and stuff, I mean, you need a very different setup. So the question is that first 450 crores that we invest, depending on which one do we want to focus on, I think it's important to consider where should we put it. Should we put it into a hospital? Should we put it into creating research facilities? Should we put it into creating opportunities for doing deep data science, and then tie it back to what is the rest of the ecosystem in India and how is that going to be supported? So I think that's sort of like just repeating a little bit of what folks have said. And I just want to close with, I've been associated with Georgia Tech Biomed department, and Sanjay talked about how MIT and Harvard Med, I mean, they work together. I've worked very closely with Duke, where engineering and the medical school, they work together. The one common theme that I see is they still have a lot of clarity around who's running the hospital, who's running the engineering school, and then more importantly, they pick 1 or 2 or 3 areas that truly they shine at. And I think that's something I would say, just based on actual experience that I've at least have working in these kind of research environment, is something that we can probably learn from.
Vipul Kashyap, who's an Optum, and he would like to contact you later. And Vipul, we'll catch him later after the other speakers are through. So we have next coming on Anurag Singh. Anurag, you there? Anurag?
While back.
Okay.
Yeah, just skip it right now. If he's not there, I'll
Yeah,
contact.
yeah. So then we have Rahul Singhvi. Meanwhile, Ajit, you can check with Anurag. Rahul?
Yes. Hi. Thank you, everyone. Great discussion here. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Absolutely fine.
Terrific. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to what has been said, but I'll just tell you a little bit about my perspective and my experience. I come from a slightly different area. I'm trained as a chemical engineer and not in the mechanical or computer area. So my experience has been mostly on the pharmaceutical and biotech area and vaccines. And I'll just tell you what the problem sets are in that space, which maybe are great problem sets for IIT to address. In the 27 years that I've been in the business, I've been mostly in vaccine area. There is a huge opportunity there, obviously, as you've seen most recently with this COVID situation. Need to make and discover, develop, and produce vaccines very quickly to get in a state of readiness. I think it's a huge problem. And that's something that we are working on in my new company, Resilience, which, by the way, is meant to create high level of resilience in society to address these type of pandemics. And the problem is really going to be solved by an interface of chemical engineering, biological engineering, and manufacturing sciences. And that's the approach that we are taking in the work that we are doing. So I think it's a different type of an area that what has been discussed here has nothing to do with hospitals. But I think it's an incredibly large problem. I think in peacetime or in times when we don't have to worry about pandemics, there's an incredible opportunity with the advent of the new type of therapies, the new modalities of medicine that are going to become the future. For example, in vectors or gene therapies, in cell engineering and cell therapies, in nucleic acid medicines that do not use the same tools of the past. And so this is going to require very different type of engineering, interface of microfluidics, interface of biological engineering like CRISPR. Those type of engineering approaches, which require an understanding of biology, mechanical engineering, electronics, chemical engineering, to come up with solutions which are going to be remarkable in really bringing these amazing type of new therapies, which are curative, by the way, in terms of their ability to really address a problem at the genetic level, and which I believe is going to be the future. Those type of solutions require a very broad bandwidth of all these different disciplinary areas, which is what I think the Institute is trying to do. And I think insofar as I can be helpful, very interested in participating, but that's what we are doing on a daily basis with my new company, Resilience, where we're trying to create manufacturing solutions from the ground up to address not only pandemics, but also the problems that are faced by society in terms of making these new curative medicines, which are incredibly impactful, to be more affordable and accessible to the larger populations. Thank you. Over to you. And of course, happy to take any questions.
Rahul, we will come back to you later. We have Alind waiting for a long time. And Alind has an experience of going across various institutes in US and would request him to share his views. And in most cases, I request people to just put their queries, questions, or request on the chat, which is there on the left. And in almost all cases, I think we'll have to have follow-up meetings. Alind, over to
you. So good evening and good morning to those of us in the US. Alind Sahai, 1987 mechanical
engineering. I have over 25 years bringing various medical devices to market in surgical robotics, endoscopes, heart-lung machines, and more recently, enterprise analytics solutions in the GI space. I'm currently vice president for R&D at Pentax Medical, which is number 2 in GI and part of a Japanese corporation called Hoya, which is a publicly traded corp. Pradeep, you mentioned right now about institutes and studies and working across those. I will get to that, but an interesting anecdote for everybody. We recently filed a 510K submission where we did animal studies in Boston. We had physicians in Peru evaluate these endoscopic images. And then I had a team in New Jersey and with support from a team in Japan who actually prepared the submission. I think an opportunity there, and it's great to hear that IIT established this animal lab. If you have a hospital with clinicians, for us as a company, we would be very interested in, I think, doing that at one spot in a very speedy way. So to me, that looks like the right direction. And I do want to congratulate Amitabh and the IITK team. I think I have been in touch off and on over the last couple of years, and the speed with which I have seen things move has been impressive. I was in one of the early calls with Noka Robotics, and I think Yashdeep, who was also on the call, was also involved. Yashdeep is from Stryker. So great to see the completion of that and to see 500 products in hospitals from that product. Switching back, Pradeep, and I will talk a little bit about my experience with Johns Hopkins. The reason I have that experience is we worked with Hopkins when I was back in my surgical robotics company very closely with their computer surgical lab. I think IIT should look at the setup they have. I believe Hopkins and Stanford, and I think I heard a couple other, are probably the best that I know, the best models that I know. We work with them at various levels, right? One is licensing technology. So if IIT were to develop a technology that might be interesting for companies to license, and that's something to look at, right? Licensing technologies. We help them in funding, right? Getting funding through companies such as ourselves, through grant bodies such as NIST, and through local venture funds such as the, I think there's University of Maryland fund that Hopkins works with very closely. So there's many different models that are there. And then we work with physicians also very closely currently, and also have worked over the last 20 years. I think it is advantageous that they have their main campus right within 5 minutes of the engineering hospital. So engineers can go over and physicians can go over to engineering labs. So it helps a lot. I won't go into more detail on that, Pradeep. Especially, I strongly encourage the IT team to look at the Hopkins setup, and would be happy to introduce people, a couple of folks there, if that will be helpful. Again, and I want to make sure there's time for the other folks on this call as well. So I have four, I think, thoughts that I would like to leave the ITK group with. I think the success of the Noka Robotics group or that effort is good. I would, though, want the team there to calibrate themselves, worldwide. If you look at the medical device space, probably less than 1% of the market is, or even less, is Indian companies, right? So that is the reality right now. In a way, that's great that IIT is setting up the entrepreneurship and this whole ecosystem that will help in that area. But if you think about that reality, you must therefore, I think, look at ways of calibrating yourself against your competitors worldwide, right? So with Noka, how will that work against its competitors, and can they take that product worldwide? The other avenue is also, for example, we have, and I think a lot of companies have funding opportunities for for startups or for people from universities as well. So if you can compete in that arena and actually get funding, that also helps you. There may be other ways too, but my main message here is to think about how you can compete worldwide and really get into recognition worldwide. Number two is focus. I think quite a few people mentioned that. Again, it's great to see this initiative, but I think focus is very important. Given the infrastructure that you have and given where you are, I think smaller kind of deep engineering areas would be useful, such as optics, energy-based therapy areas, robotics, which I still consider smaller. But as soon as you get into X-ray devices, or somebody mentioned gamma knife, those are really complex radiation devices, and that may be too much at this point, right? So I think, but to get back, my main message is both in terms of therapy areas and engineering disciplines, I think focus is very important. And again, I think I'm repeating what somebody else said. Deep expertise in basic engineering fields is very necessary, right? So in order to create a robotics device, you need a deep experience in robotics in your mechanical engineering area, right? Optics, which is the core of the technology in endoscopes and in many other areas as well, right? So building that experience will be useful both in application in the device area and I think in other businesses as well, right? So the message there is to please continue and build that expertise in the various departments. And lastly, I think governance. I think there's some great people, but I did not see anybody from the medical device side. There's plenty of people in this group, but I think that should be there, right? Industry, research, technology experience in the device space, in the pharma space, in AI. So I think that's also something very necessary to keep things going in the right direction. But once again, congratulations. I think it's a great initiative, and I'll wait for questions or and let the other speakers start.
Yeah, thanks, Alin, for sharing, the specific areas which may need more depth and also how to go about it. I would now invite Sukhwant Anuja, and who has built a great company. So, Sukhwant, to you.
Hi, can you hear me now? Okay, good, perfect. So thanks, everybody. It's wonderful to meet friends and people I've known for so many years after so long. It's quite amazing. But thanks for setting it up, and it's surely exciting to see this initiative at IIT because I've been involved in healthcare now for roughly 20 odd years. As a lot of people earlier mentioned, I think this is a great initiative. I think focus is needed. I also would suggest maybe look at what in lean thinking they call minimum viable products. So which areas can we get out faster? Maybe not even need a hospital, maybe need some other skills that we already have at Kanpur. So there may be opportunities to do a phased approach from a skill point of view. Which skills do we already have, which we need to acquire, which will take longer to develop? And there are many skills that are already at IIT, which does not require as much of like new infrastructure. For example, if you're developing new molecules or new therapies or new, but if you're developing new devices, you could potentially do it much faster. If you're developing new care paradigms or new digital or analytic skills, then you could do that fairly quickly. So given Sanjay already mentioned that I've been in telemedicine for a while, I'll give you a little bit of a background. See if this works. No. Is that, can you see my screen? Or is it?
Yes, you can see it.
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Yes.
So the thing that I thought might be interesting is you can see there are sensors that you can develop for new data acquisition without doing a lot of new infrastructure development yet. You can do data transport and ingestion or IoT that is required. You can develop patient engagement models based on behavioral analytics, or even develop data analytics for new insights. So I'll give you some examples because I'm fairly tactical in my thinking. I don't get into as high level as a lot of colleagues have been hearing. But if you think about, so for example, what we did was we took various medical devices, connected them to patients at home, and bring it to a decision support tool at the back and created patient engagement tools to keep them engaged. Sounds very simple, but it's quite hard because we develop cellular blood pressure monitors, for example, right? Now you're getting data from patients at home at all times of the day. So all of a sudden you can start to develop insights and say 25% of the people have nocturnal hypertension. If they took medication at night, they would get better outcomes. Today, nobody is telling you what time to take your medication. They're saying take it once a day. So there are a variety of insights that you can start to develop based on just when they take the reading, not even looking at the time, not even looking at the value of the reading. You can develop personality types. What type of person am I dealing with, and how do I? So what I'm recommending is that we have these skills today at IIT. We don't need new infrastructure. You can start generating revenue today. You can start making an impact in the industry right away. And as soon as that starts to build, the recognition will then leverage into allowing you to then think about what is the next logical step. So Ajay laid out 6 items, and he said this is something we can think about. Sanjay and Gautam pointed out that, hey, we need to focus. What I'm saying is let's take it one step further and say, let's see what we have today and then focus based on that. So that's my 2 cents, as I have shared what we have been working on and what skills we bring to the table. We have been working in virtual clinical trials, in patient disease management, in chronic care management, in remote patient monitoring. So we're serving payers, providers, pharma companies in about 16 countries now. And we are the virtual clinical trial platform for a variety of pharma companies, or CROs, I should say. So once again, once you build the platform technology, you can leverage it across multiple stakeholders within healthcare. And that's I'll keep it brief, but I thought I'd share a more tactical approach on how to think about it. So
thanks, Sukun. I think you could share the presentation and thoughts around, a quick start and a lean start in a way.
Sure.
I'd like to invite Shalab. Shalab has a similar sounding name, company like Elon Musk. So he's got Space Labs. Shalab, over to you.
All right, thank you. Can you guys hear and see me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, so I'm 1989 bat, electrical engineering, and was inspired by Dr. Roy, who was a biomed, who taught the biomed class the last semester. Went on to do my master's in biomedical engineering, and I was a research scientist. And one of the things that that I'm very proud of is the cardiac CT that I invented with a few of my colleagues. I did my MBA, got to the darker side on the business side. Started with running a joint venture in China. So I've lived in China and Shanghai for about 6 years as the CEO and president of the region. Primarily, my experience is primarily med device. So I've been doing that for over 25 years. CT, patient monitoring, MRI patient monitoring, diagnostic cardiology. And today I run the Space Labs healthcare business. And the name comes from
the fact that we took a moonshot in 1958 and the Apollo mission with Ed White and Neil Armstrong, they were monitored by Space Labs Technology for telemetry. And we're taking another moonshot now in trying to drive the next level of connectivity, seamless patient information sharing, and looking at the continuum of care with the medical devices. So I'm actually trying to work with Sukhwant because he has so much knowledge and he's been doing this for such a long time in driving this. Coming to IIT Kanpur, I think this is a phenomenal initiative that has been taken up. And I think Gautam mentioned that it was just a dream and now it's becoming a reality. And I'll refer to my teacher in 6th grade, Dr. Ishwaran, that Pramath knows. She had said, and this has stuck with me all along, she said, it is not failure that's a crime, it's the low aim that's a crime. So it's a great to see IIT Kanpur going after this. Of course, I agree with the colleagues and all my friends who have talked before that we need to figure out the focus. And the focus comes through really understanding what our strengths are and where we can win and how quickly we can win and some of the things. And Sukhwant pointed very brilliantly on some of the things that could be done. I am wishing all success with the med device background that I have. And today, the Space Labs Healthcare is basically patient monitors and diagnostic cardiology. And as I said, we're driving into working with companies to get into hospital to home and remote patient monitoring areas and so on. I'd be excited to help and do what I can do to help IIT Kanpur to move forward. So thank you very much. I think I just want to mention, somebody said earlier, I think it was either one of the guys mentioned about how when people talk about IIT Kanpur and you say you're from IIT Kanpur, people take a step back and they know IIT Kanpur, right? We as an alum and the leaders at IIT Kanpur would like to continue to maintain that and get it to a higher level. And this moonshot that you're taking is a great initiative. Looking forward to supporting it in any which way I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharap. We have Ratna Shekhar next instead of Rajiv Ranjan. Ratna Shekhar.
Pradeep, excuse me, this is Rajiv Ranjan. I'm not sure. Ratna was having trouble joining VoxMeet, so I'm not sure he's there. But since I have the forum, let me speak for a moment here. So I don't have any background in pharma, medical, and such devices. I have been in core engineering, and as Professor Karendekar mentioned, I am the new president of IIT Kanpur Foundation. I am so honored to hear all these luminaries and the extensive background they have in these areas, and I'm so impressed. But I will do my best, I think, as my charter of IIT Kanpur Foundation president, to help the cause in connecting the alumni to alma mater and fundraising and faculty recruitment and such. So I'm looking forward to whatever shape this initiative is going to take. That's all.
That was one of the ideas we wanted you anyway. So let's see if Ratna is able to make it. Otherwise, we have a couple of speakers who are not able to, get in. But we have Vipul Kashyap who wanted to speak, and if he's there, we'd like to have him speak. Vipul, are you there?
So Anurag is back here.
Okay.
Anurag.
Yeah.
Hey, Ajit, thank you. Sorry, I had to step away for a few minutes out there, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk out here. But one thing, this is an amazing thing that you all are doing. I talked to Manind about 2 years ago, and that's when I first heard about it, and I was very excited about what was being done at IIT Kanpur. My two things, actually, just to give you a little bit background, I have worked in healthcare education for now nearly 25 years, and I've been focused on working with medical schools and all over the country in the United States as well as internationally. both Singapore, Middle East, as well as a little bit now in India out there that we're getting involved. My reach means I built a company actually primarily for clinical healthcare education. And this clinical is not about the clinical and molecular things. It's more about teaching doctors about how to practice medicine out there. So I've worked out and pretty much have been involved in the setting up and working with different kinds of programs out here in the US. My company actually pretty much has 60% to 70% of clinical education market space in US, as well as work with NUS in Singapore, Duke NUS in Singapore, and a number of testing bodies for clinical education and training out there. So I'm really excited about what you all are doing because I think it is at the forefront of education and training out there, because bringing engineering and the medical schools program is really great out there. And the vision that you all have outlined, I think it's certainly achievable with all what you are defining with the brand and identity. And as I remember Pramath and others talking about, just make sure that the brand identity is not diluted in any way as you're thinking and talking about it. And as you move from the GME program or PG program out there to UME, hopefully if there's anything I can do to help, I'll be more than happy to help and be available for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Narag. We have Ratna back, and will be the last speaker of the list. And after that, we could go to Q&A and close. Ratna, from your side, your thoughts.
So I just Pradeep, I just wanted to know, Anurag, what company was yours, like, for this clinical education?
What we did, our company name was EMS, Education Management Solutions. Our brand is more Simulation IQ, because what we do is we have programs, software, hardware for medical simulation for teaching skills in the medical education and training space.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, Ratna Shekhar. Rajiv, is he back?
He is, but looks like he's having technical trouble. Let's move on. Thanks, Pradeep.
Okay. So I think our long list is done, and I think they mesmerized all the audience and people also looking at what wealth of knowledge we have in just these few batches, and they are not complete because many people could not make it in this session. So thank you all for sharing your views. I think it would definitely need a follow-up session and one-on-one discussion as well. I would let now Rajiv take it forward, and thereafter Professor Jayant.
Hi everyone. I think the amount of knowledge which we heard today is phenomenal, and I think with the support that we get from the people here, IITK cannot go wrong. And I think this is the very first batch. We are looking at maybe 10 or 12 more sessions like this one. So I mean, I've been just hearing all of you and taking notes, and I think we will use all the knowledge which we got here. I do not see any questions coming from the audience here, but if there are one, you can certainly make a shout now. We have also
Rajiv, Vipul also wants to talk. If he is around, he could probably have some thoughts. Vipul Kashyap.
Yes, hi Rajiv.
So
Hi, this is Vipul.
Vipul, give me a minute.
Take your time, no worries. Yeah.
So what we have done is we have created an email ID called smrtiitk@gmail.com. So if you have any questions or follow-up action required after this session, you can write to smrtiitk@gmail.com. Very simple email ID, smrtiitk@gmail.com. and we will make sure that we connect with you. Thank you, Vipul. You can go ahead now.
Yeah, actually, it's a fascinating discussion. Good to see all our batchmates. And actually, I just wanted to make 2 or 3 points. Like all of us in tech geeks, we get very excited by the new shiny toys. I think we should all resist that temptation. My suggestion, and I faced it personally in my life. We should take a step back, and my suggestion would be: is can we focus on the value? Can the value we bring to Indian society be the focus of a discussion? And some value statements could be: can we develop cost-effective interventions to to reduce the economic burden of healthcare in India? Could we develop interventions which could improve outcomes in healthcare in India? And if we could take that value focus and use that as an organizing principle to organize all the things we talked about: gene, cell therapy, gamma knife, and robotic devices, and then carve out a value statement. So I'm actually echoing Sukhwant to a large extent. I really resonated with what he said. So the only thing I'm adding to your idea, Sukhwant, is let us clearly identify the first value or the lean hypothesis which we want to prove up. And potentially the lead hypothesis is that IITK SMRT can, for this particular population of patients, can reduce the cost of their healthcare. This is just an example. We can come up with a different value statement. And then we then organize everything about it. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, I think one thing is missing is there seems to be an underemphasis on healthcare services research. This is about, in the clinical care setting, what are the optimal interventions to be developed and delivered to a particular population? And is it cost effective? Does it deliver the promised outcomes? And are the payers willing to pay for it? So I understand the payer industry in India is not that developed, but I think bringing the clinical and financial risk around patient populations needs to be a part of the picture, because that is what provides the value statement. And I personally believe that instead of, we have a very interesting opportunity to leapfrog America and the West. Because I think in the US, the healthcare ecosystem is badly divided. You have the pharma folks doing the stuff, you have the providers, they're doing the stuff, and the payers doing the stuff. Maybe in India, since all these 3 areas are not so well developed, we can actually chart out an interesting example of, through IITK, of doing a very ecosystem delivered intervention. And the third and last appointment I want to make is there is a clear shift in here from fee for service to pay for performance. If we can understand this, and it's almost like it's a societal shift. If we can understand that and leverage it and implement it in a much better way than here, that would be a great win. And the second thing is, I think Sukhwant mentioned it or Gautam mentioned it, care is now going out of hospitals. More and more care is shifting to people's homes. More and more care is shifting to outpatient clinics and post-acute centers. So if we can recognize these shifts happening in the US and leapfrog and leverage that to organize ourselves, that would be awesome. So those are the 3 or 4 points I wanted to make. And the only thing I would emphasize is we need to think more about the last mile. How are these interventions and these devices which are being developed, how are they really impacting patient care and the clinician at the point of care? So just wanted to share these points, and hey, really excited to be here and would love to be in touch with all of you and work closely with all of you. Thank you, Abhayji, for taking this initiative, and any help. We are all we are all excited and ready to jump in and help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think, without doubt, this is the most bold step IITKanpur has taken. Before we close, is there anybody else who wants to make a statement?
Hello, Rajiv. This is Rajiv Gopal.
Sorry, who was that?
This is Arun. Rajiv Gopal.
Okay. Arun, you want to go first, and then Rajiv, and we'll just close there?
Yeah, I'm just, this is Arun Seth here. I mean, this is absolutely phenomenal what one has heard. and I'm part of this task force, as Abhay said, and I'd be very happy to reach out to a lot of you people. You don't know what you've in for. You've all been volunteered.
Thanks,
No,
Arun.
no, I just wanted to echo what Arun said, that all those who have spoken, thank you very much, and I don't know where you get yourself into it. So we will really exploit all your talents and your potentials in realizing this. A lot of good points made, and I think we will take that into account while moving forward. So, and I think last point that was made, as I think in terms of healthcare intervention to help the local population in a very cost-effective way. I think that has been at the back of our mind as well. Although I know I did not articulate, and I think that is extremely important. In fact, IIT Kanpur is in a state where it is needed the most, perhaps, and I think that could be a good experimental ground indeed. So I think yes, that point is, I think, extremely important.
Thanks, Abhay. Rajiv Gopan, you wanted to say something? Rajiv?
Yeah, thank you. So I have two questions. One is about the aspiration levels here. Are we seeking to be a good Indian medical school research center, or are we seeking to be a global player, meaning amongst the global ranking? That might help if it is set out. I mean, if it is the latter, if we want to be globally competitive, then I don't know if we have set out the vision against that, and I don't know who will set out this vision, because IIT Kanpur by itself perhaps doesn't have that experience. So perhaps we need a visionary to do that, and maybe that visionary is already there, but the presentation did not spell that out. My second point is about the relationship between existing IIT Kanpur and this new medical school. Is one supposed to serve the other, or are both going to be independent and are going to be allowed to run on their own, and in the process support each other? I mean, if this is fully funded, then we can be idealistic and we can talk about research. Or if the new facility needs to be viable, then you need to make sure that you set it up in a way that you generate enough revenue for it to then be aspirational. So that sequencing, and some people hinted at that, right? So the sequencing needs to be worked out based on how this new facility is going to be positioned. And finally, just the location. Somebody have already mentioned it, but Kanpur is a real challenge as far as location is concerned. And again, if we want to be aspirational, we really need to think about how we're going to overcome that disadvantage. Thank you.
Thanks, Rajiv. Abhay, would you like to respond to any of these questions?
No, I think these are valid points. In fact, we have already, I briefly mentioned about the relationships of IIT Kanpur and the hospital. As far as a hospital will be separately run and managed by a separate company, but all the research and other part will be very much integrated part of an IIT Kanpur. In that sense, the School of Medical Research will be just yet another department or school of the institute. So it will be very much integrated into that. And as far as I think the location is concerned, actually, I do not see that much of a problem because I think it is, in fact, the location, in fact, could be an advantage in this case. In fact, I would say that a School of Medical Research and Technology in IIT will not work out, in fact, as there are very state-of-the-art hospitals with research, as Gautam also mentioned. But I think here is an opportunity in Kanpur, and someone has mentioned that to make a difference in terms of making healthcare interventions with affordable sort of technology and affordable healthcare could be a fertile ground, actually, as a matter of fact, in the state of Uttar Pradesh. So this could act, as a matter of fact, be the location could be actually an opportunity. So I would say in this sense. In terms of, I think, international best practices, yes, I mean, I would want to mention, however, here is that in terms of clinical practices and medicine, I think India is quite advanced. We have actually really top doctors which are really well rated. The only problem that India has is that in terms of medical research, I think it has been lacking, but not really so much in terms of hospitals and doctor skills. We are actually quite advanced in that sense. But I do agree that in terms of some of the advanced research, and that problem is because most of our medical colleges and universities, unlike in the West, uh, uh, work in silos and do not have really worked in an interdisciplinary fashion, which is really has been the need and will be even more further the need going forward. And I think that is where institutions like IIT can make a difference. And I think that is our belief. So I believe that by combining with some of the best clinical skills that exist in the country with the engineering skills and the technological advancement that we have, I think we can benchmark ourselves with some of the best global practices.
So, Professor Karindikar, there's a question from one of the audience. I don't have the name here, and that's about related to the ranking of IIT Kanpur, and how would medical school help IIT Kanpur improve the ranking?
No, well, I think ranking is a function of the growth, both in terms of faculty and the research. And also some of the ranking parameters are also related to the perception. So I believe that all these things, I mean, we are moving towards in that directions to enhance our research, enhance our say in incubation systems, and also enhance our say in the interdisciplinary areas. I believe that will sort of lead to improvement in the ranking as well.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions, and I just want to mention that if there are some post-event questions, you can write to smrtiitk@gmail.com.
So, Rajiv, I just want to take just half a minute to introduce Kapil Kaul if he's there.
Kapil was there. I don't see him. Kapil, are you there?
I'm very much here.
Okay,
Kapil,
great.
can you just switch on your video so that everyone can see your face?
Yes.
So I just wanted to introduce Kapil will be joining as the CEO of IIT Kanpur Development Foundation, and he will interact with, of course, Jayant, as a Dean of Resources and Alumni, but Kapil will be interacting with all the alumni. Kapil brings with him more than 2 decades of experience in the industry and also working with the alumni. He was the vice president of IIT Bombay, IIT Kanpur, IIT Bombay Development Foundations, and that is where I knew him as a faculty in IIT Bombay. And I think he will provide a completely professionally managed office and a professional touch to the alumni relations. That was actually our gap area. Despite the best efforts that were put in by several deans and including Jayant, who has put in a lot of efforts, the fact remains that he's an active faculty member and active researcher. And with him, I think that's the reason of bringing him a full-time professional persons with corporate experience. So I think, yeah.
Thank you, Professor Karandikar. So I look forward to speaking with each one of you and essentially charting out how we as a group and as individuals you can engage with the institute, with whether it is SMRT or other initiatives. So we will together find a way to work on that.
Thank you, Kapil. Thank you, Professor Karandikar. I would now request Jayan to propose a vote of thanks, and we conclude this event.
Thank you, Rajiv. I've been listening to this wonderful thoughts. It's overwhelming. And one of the things which I realized that we have not been able to yet reach out to you to provide this kind of insight to what you have done for so many years. And I think this, I would like to take this opportunity to create some kind of alumni lecture series, which is necessary for students to hear from you as well. And something which today morning we were having a discussion with Subba Rao, E.C. Subba Rao, and this is something which COVID also allows us to talk over Zoom, and this is a perfect opportunity for us also to make use of it, something which will reach out to you separately. But let me thank all the speakers, particularly also Professor Karandikar, to take his time out to talk about this new initiative, and Rajiv and Pradeep to thought about UNI platform with the help of Sandeep. And mainly the coordinators who have been very active in reaching out to the batch. I'll just name their coordinators. Ajit Das, coordinator of class of 86. Alin Sahai, class of 87. Nishit Mohan, class of 88. Vivek Mudgil, class of 89. And Rajiv Ranjan, class of 90. And this is something for the first time we are doing it. And I believe that a lot of pointers you have all made, and we're going to make sure that all of this will keep in account in order to make sure that this initiative becomes successful with least resistive path. I think with that, we would like to conclude. Thank you very much, and have a good day and good night, and hope to see you, personally meet you, and hopefully we'll work together. And I'm sure that as the doctor, Karandikar already said, you're already on board. There is no way that you can escape now. So with that, we'll meet again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Joining us and sharing your views.
Bye.
Thank you all.